This isn't just about individual cognition. It's about professional conditions. AI shapes how fast decisions converge, how polished outputs look early, how visible deliberation becomes, how responsibility feels distributed. Now, clients may bring AI-generated interpretations. Students may rely on AI drafts. If AI-generated structure becomes the quiet default, that becomes the standard. Not because anyone decided it should, but because momentum made it so. That's the part we need to stay away from, because AI right now has a great amount of momentum. Even when AI drafts, synthesizes, or structures, responsibility must remain with the professional. AI redistributes cognitive effort. It does not redistribute accountability. That distinction is central. Hello, and welcome to Season 2 of Beyond the Couch, AI and Psychology. I'm your host, Dr. Ernest Wayde. Now, as always, before we get started, I want to thank the organizations that make this podcast possible. This episode is sponsored by the American Board of Professional Psychology, the National Register of Health Service Psychologists, and my consulting firm, Wayde AI. Their support helps us create thoughtful, psychology-focused conversations about how AI is sharpening our field. All right, so today I want to talk a little bit about a question that I used to get a lot, and that question used to be, should AI be a part of psychology? But more and more, it's clear that AI is already part of psychology and psychological work. So it's really no longer a future possibility or even a thought experiment. AI is here, practically, in the day-to-day. Clinicians are using it. Researchers, educators, consultants are all using it. Leaders, clients, patients, even people building systems into healthcare and organizations. AI seems to be everywhere. So I think we also need to move our framing AI as a good or bad thing, since the answer is that it really depends. Now, my personal view is that it depends on if it's used ethically and responsibly. I think that one of the more useful questions for psychologists is this. What is the technology actually doing? And I'll take that further and say, what is it doing to us? What is AI doing to us as psychologists, as practitioners, as researchers, as educators? And today, I want to answer that concretely. So I'm going to use myself as a running example, and not because my experience is universal, but because I've been using AI constantly for years now across research, governance work, podcast development, writing, planning. I use it pretty much in everything that I do in both my personal and my professional life. So that gives me enough repetition to see patterns. So I'm going to talk about what the tech actually does, how it changes how I work, and the things that I've noticed, both advantages and risks. And I'll also reference a couple of recent articles highlighted in the Wayde AI brief, so you can see the research lane that I'm drawing from. Okay, so let's dive in. Let's start with what the tech does. So AI at a functional level is extremely good at a cluster of tasks. It retrieves information conversationally. It generates drafts quickly, summarizes and compresses information. It reorganizes messy input into structure. It simulates critique and produces options. In simple terms, it reduces effort. Reduces the effort for me to go from question to answer. The effort for me to go from idea to artifact. The effort for me to go from messy to structured. And when you reduce effort like that, you change process. There's a 2026 article in Frontiers in Digital Health, which is also covered in the Wayde AI brief, that looks at AI through a cognitive load lens. The core idea is that AI can reduce extraneous cognitive load, which is the overhead effort spent organizing, formatting, retrieving, and structuring. Now, that's not the same thing as reducing thinking. It's reducing the mechanical burden around your thinking. Now, some parts of our work are cognitively expensive without being cognitively valuable. Reducing that kind of load can preserve working memory for actual judgment. That is a real benefit. For a clinician, that might mean less documentation drag. For a researcher, faster literature triage. For an educator, faster structured drafts. For a consultant or leader, clearer, earlier frameworks. I use it for exactly that. It reduces time and friction on research synthesis. It helps structure governance models. It helps compress regulatory updates into usable summaries for me. That relief is tangible and meaningful in terms of my efficiency and my time. But reducing extraneous load is only beneficial if it doesn't also reduce necessary cognitive effort, which is the effort that sharpens judgment. And that distinction matters. So, what changes about how work happens? Well, for me, the biggest shift I've noticed is this: AI changes the starting point. I love writing, but I hate the process of starting to write. And AI has helped me to go beyond that starting point and dive right into the writing. Work that used to begin with uncertainty now begins with coherence. Instead of a blank page, there's a draft. Instead of wrestling first, there's structure. I don't spend hours just sitting and thinking about how do I start. AI helps me start. For me, that is efficient. But originating and refining are not the same cognitive act. When I originate, I wrestle. When I refine, I reevaluate. Both require judgment, but they engage it differently. AI also changes pacing. Because drafts appear instantly, good enough arrives early. And when good enough arrives early, momentum builds. Now, there's also a 2026 article in AI and Society, again highlighted in the brief, that examines reliance patterns and trust calibration. The idea is that fluent, confident output can subtly shift how cognitive effort gets distributed. Not because users are uncritical, but because fluency reduces the felt need to probe. That shift is subtle, but subtle shifts accumulate. And that's where my own pattern comes in. What I've noticed after years of heavy use is that I use AI in many modes. It started as a conversational search, then suggestion generation, then simple task execution, complex deliverables, governance life cycles, readiness tools, validation protocols, then research synthesis. Then I use it as a drafting partner, then adversarial thought partner, then systems architecture, simulation engine, and increasingly cognitive offloader. The upside has been significant. I move faster, I externalize ideas earlier, I build systems more quickly, and I'm given more options. It has expanded my capacity significantly. Now, over time, I've learned that while this output is very helpful and I am much more efficient, I also have to spend a lot more time proofing and validating and increasing the effectiveness of the work and the quality of the work that I'm getting from the AI systems that I use. Now, over time, it's gotten better, and I've learned how to get better quality work from the AI applications that I'm using. But I've also learned over time that it is absolutely critical for me to validate every single thing that I get from these AI applications. Now, I've also noticed that AI has become my first move. Because it's fast and available, it's easy to start there. That's efficient for me. But if the first move is always external, internal formulation weakens. I have to consciously decide when to sit with the blank page. And I find that the more and more I use AI, the more and more I am forcing myself to sit with that blank page, to start from me instead of starting with the AI. And that's because I want to maintain that ability to continue to do the work myself without AI. For me, I think it's absolutely critical that as I'm using AI and learning how to optimize the output and the quality of the work that I get from it, I maintain my own ability to do quality and effective work. That said, when something is coherent and structured, it feels settled. And I've caught myself moving forward several times because something sounds complete. Not because I've interrogated deeply, but because the AI has done a good enough job that it sounds reasonable to me. And so I've had to put in place processes for myself to make sure that I validate and verify everything and that I interrogate the quality of the work and that I make sure that I'm getting the best effort from the AI, but also from myself. So it's twofold at this point. I will always interrogate the AI and check it to make sure that it is giving me its best effort because, as I've said, AI can be lazy, but I will also make sure that I am putting the effort in because I am human and I can be lazy. This is especially true when I'm using AI outside my strongest expertise. AI sounds confident. When I'm in unfamiliar terrain, that tone can subtly shape my own stance. That's where verification becomes non-negotiable. Fluency is not the same as truth. It is not the same as quality. It is not the same as accuracy. AI helps me generate options quickly, but depth requires friction. It requires that back and forth. And sometimes I will do that with the AI, and sometimes I need to do that with myself. If I want deep thinking, I have to choose it. It doesn't happen automatically when drafts are instant. In fact, I can guarantee that for the most part, the first drafts that you get are not the best drafts that even an AI can get for you. And it still requires you to put in that extra effort to make it even better. Now, I want to be clear, this isn't just about individual cognition. It's about professional conditions. AI shapes how fast decisions converge, how polished outputs look early, how visible deliberation becomes, how responsibility feels distributed. Now, clients may bring AI-generated interpretations. Students may rely on AI drafts. If AI-generated structure becomes the quiet default, that becomes the standard. Not because anyone decided it should, but because momentum made it so. That's the part we need to stay away from, because AI right now has a great amount of momentum. Even when AI drafts, synthesizes, or structures, responsibility must remain with the professional. AI redistributes cognitive effort. It does not redistribute accountability. That distinction is central. So where does that leave us? Well, for me, AI has expanded what I can produce and how quickly and effectively I get my work done. And sometimes I will deliberately slow down instead of relying on AI, which moves very quickly. When I'm outside my expertise, I verify even more than usual. But verification for me is a standard part of any AI use. When something feels settled too quickly, I interrogate it. I ask it as a matter of process, is this the best you can do? What are you missing? How can we do better? And then I ask myself those same questions as well. Not because AI is dangerous, but because acceleration changes defaults. AI doesn't eliminate judgment. It increases the importance of deliberate judgment in accelerated environments. The more we can do, the faster we can do it, the better our judgment needs to be. And that is where psychology still matters. All right. Well, I hope that has been helpful to you. I would love to hear from you all in terms of how you're using AI and what you've noticed, both positive and some of the risks. And if you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave us a review. Feedback is a gift, and we love gifts. We hope you will join us again soon.